Good evening. Today is the 17th day of November 2016. 43 years ago, the mother discarded the physical sheath to continue the work of transformation with Sri Aurobindo. In the 1954 edition of Savitri, Amal had written a very beautiful piece. Although he left some lines out, he said about this passage of 72 lines, absolutely the last piece of poetry dictated by Sri Aurobindo, in which, with a sound as of massive repeating bells, Narad admonishes King Ashwapati's wife when she protests against the fate of loneliness that will be her daughter Savitri in consequence of the predestined passing of Satyavan, even as it appeared to be that of Sri Aurobindo's spiritual co-worker, the mother, at the time the master of the integral yoga withdrew from his body. Some lines may be quoted. As a star, uncompanioned, moves in heaven, unastonished by the immensities of space, traveling infinity by its own light, the great are strongest when they stand alone. A day may come when she must stand unhelped on a dangerous brink of the world's doom and hers, carrying the world's future on her lonely breast, carrying the human hope in a heart left sole to conquer or fail on a last desperate verge. Alone with death and close to extinction's edge, her single greatness in that last dire scene, she must cross alone a perilous bridge in time, and reach an apex of world destiny, where all is won or all is lost for man. For this, the silent force came missioned down. In her, the conscious will took human shape. She only can save herself and save the world. Even though all falters and falls, and season end, and the heart fails, and only are death and night, God-given, her strength can battle against doom. Think not to intercede with the hidden will, intrude not twixt her spirit and its force, but leave her to her mighty self and fate. You know, I was told by Babu in the clinic that mother's, she had severe curvature of the spine. And she said to Pranab, "Is there anything you can do about this? It's the body's unconsciousness." I was there when mother left, and we went in the queue many, many times to see her. This small human body in which the Divine Mother had descended, love in her was wider than the universe. The whole world could take refuge in her single heart. And now we continue with our explorations in Savitri, with our beloved brother, Alok. We are going to pick up again at page 167, the last two lines, and go from there.
One of the first lessons in yoga and the last lessons of science is that don't be deceived by appearances. I suppose it very much applies to the mother's physical withdrawal. Because what we see and the way it is understood, I think human mind is very, very far from the kind of work that she has done. Just to share one, of course, I have recently written a whole longish article which will come in pieces on this aspect of her withdrawal. But very often we judge by the written word. Now, implicit within this is a presumption that whatever is written, that alone was going on. But very often what is not spoken or what is not written, a lot more is going on there, and the divine for her own reasons does not want to reveal it. We are not ready for that revelation. So very often when people, based on readings from the agenda or notes on the way, draw conclusions, the big problem with that is that means that whatever she did not speak, that did not exist, but lot more she held back. And what happened during that period when she was not communicating at all outwardly, lot must be going on. Probably on the dangerous brink when you don't speak about it. She describes it in one of her experiences where she is chased by a great flood. And she is on a particular vehicle.
Yes.
And the flood is racing to destroy the world, and every time she makes a last maneuver and escapes.
Yes.
And if she could escape, the whole world escapes. It's like chasing her and the world. And eventually, the flood recedes and the whole thing is saved. Now, when this image, I think of this image. Imagine someone is driving a whole spaceship through a very dangerous, curvature in space. We can imagine a small little car being driven through a very dangerous space, the dangerous brink. It's literally on the brink, on the precipice. And you were to nudge and ask, tell me how do you feel, and what are you going to do? What would you say? You would simply say, keep quiet. Let me do what I am doing. I know what I am doing. So I suppose towards the end, almost, after the mother speaks of a new body, I think it is 71 or 72. There's almost a gap of an year when she doesn't speak anything further about it. Perhaps that was the dangerous brink, and there was nothing much to be spoken, because if you see how little she would speak after that.
Yes.
There was so much going on, and I feel that is the period when the most critical events were taking place within a body and within the body of the world. And when we do not understand anything, the best is to remain silent with humility and gratitude.
Yes, and those of us who love Savitri,
Yes,
and who have had contact with Sri Aurobindo and Mother should be so grateful, because the presence is even more powerful now
yes.
than
And
it
she
was
said
when
that-
she was in her body.
Yes, she said that about Sri Aurobindo. After he physically withdrew, Mother was asked that where was Sri Aurobindo when he left the body. So Mother says, in fact, his action has become much more powerful.
Yes.
And the same thing she repeats to Monada in this book, Benedictions of Grace, a new book which has come. She says, earlier people used to complain that Sri Aurobindo is far and distant. And then she says, though there was nothing like it, nothing like that. He would respond to each and every letter, sometimes sitting at night, and yet people had these complaints. She said, but now he has become universal. And then she speaks of the samadhi. She says, just as you approach me now, because she's speaking of her in the physical body, you can just go and tell Sri Aurobindo. He's right there. And he listens to you and he gives a response. So very often when people, I mean, I'm going a little different from Savitri, but that's the mood of the day. And we'll connect with it, that, people often say, but who will answer our questions? Well, when Sri Aurobindo answered questions, it was, people received it very often with the mind, and not that everybody who received the answer followed it, because he had to repeat the same answer again and again. They asked the same questions. So it's not that just because you receive a mental answer which we can mentally read. Second is that even when we receive it, people had doubts on that because they understood it with their own mind. Now it's much easier because the answer bypasses the mental understanding and goes straight into the heart. So I feel the answer is like a response from the grace, which is so much more better. So Sri Aurobindo and the mother's action, the same applies to the mother, is far more intense. And of course, this is testified by the experience of countless persons through the decades. Otherwise, we would not be sitting here. So this is my simple take. Not going into whether the supramental body is formed or not. It's like ants discussing about human beings. Let's just know that she is there, she is here, she is everywhere, and she knows and carries the world's destiny and ours in her safe hands. Do we need to know more? So here comes this connecting line. All that we see, all that we have experienced, the mother, Sri Aurobindo, their physical leela, the letters, all this, and of course the ashram and everything, is but a provisional scheme. Yet, was this only a provisional scheme? This is speaking of the little life and man's understanding. So even when they are there in the physical body, how much do we really understand? The story of Swami Sharananand, when he was blind in both eyes, and when he went for darshan, somebody asked him, you are going for darshan, you can't see, and Sri Aurobindo won't speak. So what is the meaning of it? He says, even if I had eyes, how much can I see? I am going so that their gaze can fall upon me.
And that has been said also, we don't see Sri Aurobindo, yes, he sees us.
He sees us. So the same thing applies very much, because yes, what we see, what we hear, what we experience, what we touch and feel is nothing but a schema, a provisional scheme. There is a greater truth hidden. A false appearance sketched by limiting sense. So when we use the word, her body and a physical withdrawal, etc., etc., I would say, well, if for the rest of it we cannot believe our eyes and ears, how can we believe our eyes and ears when we are seeing? When Amal Kiran went to mother, this had to be given a press note on Sri Aurobindo's physical withdrawal. And the note read something like this: the mortal remains of Sri Aurobindo will be interred in the samadhi.
Oh, yeah.
And the mother cut it off. She said there was nothing immortal about Sri Aurobindo. Each cell of his body is immortal and a living presence. Now, how will our mind understand it? So this is how mind's insufficient self-discovery, it doesn't even know itself. An early attempt, a first experiment. This was a toy to amuse the infant earth. So as long as we feel very proud about it, that with this we can know, with the senses I can see, understand. But knowledge ends not in these surface powers that live upon a ledge in the ignorance and dare not look into the dangerous depths or to stare upward, measuring the unknown. We cannot understand. 74, there is a vision of Nalnida where he writes, he is written it as a vision, where he sees the mother come and she says, just look at me. Yes. I am still the same. You can approach me just as you approached me. Human and divine. see, I have come in my new transformed body. This is how she says. And I am available to you just as I was before. So, how much can we really see and understand? So, we have to understand this that we don't understand. And very often I use this expression, illusion of knowledge is worse than ignorance. Because if there is ignorance, you have a chance to, get rid of it. But when we believe we know, it's very dangerous because we don't want to get rid of it. And the mind, unfortunately, gets into that mode again and again. So what we should do, there is a deeper seeing from within, and when we have left these small purlieus of mind, a greater vision meets us on the heights, in the luminous wideness of the Spirit's gaze. That deeper vision we have to cultivate. There is no other choice for us. And in a way, I compare the mother's withdrawal particularly, or transformation, whatever way we want to call it. I'm not resisting the temptation to go into it because then, we'll just flow with it. Similar to what happened to Krishna when he withdrew from Vrindavan. Suddenly at midnight he went, and Sri Aurobindo recounts it as one of the most important 4 great events in the history of mankind.
Oh yes.
And because Shri Krishna suddenly withdrew from Vrindavan, in the middle of that wonderful dance, it awakened in the heart of humanity through initially the gopis and the gopis love. Before that there was knowledge and everything else was there, Veda, Vedanta, Upanishads. But Krishna's withdrawal awakened streams of love because they longed, they missed, they couldn't anymore see, feel, touch the body of their Lord. And I think this whole process of their stepping behind is to awaken in our very physical being an aspiration for the divine. She was trying to implant it. We thought it just a playground where we go for exercises, being very frank, that we are building our bodies. Because she says that, people still don't understand. She was trying to awaken aspiration in the body. They thought, I am doing mother's work, great being. So this was a way. Now we want to see, hear, touch, feel, sense, and we can't. If at all there is a tragedy, it is this. I am talking of the gross outer, not the inner being. This body wants to touch the divine. How do you touch the divine? So it awakens an aspiration. You want to see her just like that. How do you see her? She had come within the range of our sight. Now she is just a step there, so that we can reach out to a point where we can see her supramental body. So here Sri Aurobindo is reminding us we have to grow into that greater vision and luminous whiteness. At last there wakes in us a witness soul that looks at truths unseen and scans the unknown, that all assumes a new and marvelous face. Here it is.
There it is.
All assumes. Probably we'll see her in everyone. New and marvelous face. That face, that glory, which was hidden behind the outer sheath.
Once Huta asked Mother, as Huta would, "Are you truly the divine?" Mother smiled. She said, "Come back tomorrow." And Huta came back. She said, "Narad, I saw from here." Mother revealed for that one moment.
Yes.
She couldn't handle it.
That's it. So now, maybe few centuries we have to grow, aspire till these eyes can reach, develop that range and ability to behold her supramentalized body. This is how. And it's necessary, because if she is right within our mortal range, we are too satisfied with this. We don't dig deeper inside. The world quivers with a God light at its core. Imagine, look at this expression, quivers, throbs, thrills. In time's deep heart, High purposes move and live. Life's borders crumble and join infinity. So what is this scheme in which we live? All this which we have been reading about, the little life and human life, within these rigid, narrow boundaries, hedge of senses. Well, this broad, confused, yet rigid scheme becomes a magnificent imbroglio of the gods. A game, a work, ambiguously divine. We can't understand the play. Why Krishna, when the Mahabharata war is going on, and everybody is wondering, he is God. Some say he is God. Most didn't believe that time. These fellows say he is God. What is he doing? Making brothers fight with each other, destroying this whole earth. So now also we say, supermind has come. Why this is happening? Demonetization, Donald Trump, Putin. When mother was asked, mother said, just know that trust that the supermind is here. Just know it with trust, and it will do and is doing everything that is necessary to hasten the advent of truth. As simple as that. We cannot understand because we have our own preconceived ideas of what is good for us. When little babies get, bitter medicines from doctor uncle and mothers, they don't like it, I'm sure. But you have to take it. It's good. So, a game, a work ambiguously divine. Our seekings are short-lived experiments made by a wordless and inscrutable power. Mark the expression inscrutable.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful word Shubhendra is used. Testing its issues from inconscient night to meet its luminous self of truth and bliss. Testing its issue from the inconscient night to meet its own truth and bliss which is hidden inside. And the mother came, Shubhendra and the mother close to us, allowed us to test. Test, let's see how far you will go. And to whatever extent mankind could go. And then they said, okay, now you need to prepare in this way, this mode. They will do whatever is necessary.
Well, Mother said, Sri Aurobindo said that those who were close to Mother weren't always the ones who were receiving something.
Yeah. That even today I was for All India magazine taking out, and there's a whole number of letters on physical nearness and inner nearness.
Yes.
And Shubhendra says again and again that don't be misled by this idea that just because somebody is physically near, therefore one is closer to the mother. This nearness, physical nearness, is for other reasons. It's a different arrangement which cannot be understood by the human mind. But this logic doesn't apply because we try to use this logic. Because we would like to keep those near to us who flatter us and whom we favor. But the divine may well say, oh, you are so close to me, you stay far because I know you always know me and I am, always with you. You never know. There can be a logic like that, someone whom the divine knows that, well, he is mine. What is there? Doesn't have to be all the time holding my hand. Always I am in him. There was this person called, his name was Bihari. So he lived like an ascetic and he could predict his own death. He said, that to some of the friends, proper bye-bye and everything. Nobody could know that why he is doing it. And by evening he was gone. And he would very often not go for darshan. So someone complained to the mother that he doesn't come for darshan. What kind of a person? Mother said, no, I am always in him and he is always in me. He doesn't have to. Now this is another approach. People who were at work, when they were asked,
yes.
Mother said, you don't have to come for pranam. You do your work, I'll come. So there are some who go to the divine, others to whom divine comes. Both ways we meet.
And then she asks Kunma, one day, what did you feel at darshan? And he said, Mother, I didn't feel anything. I was looking at this one. He had this work to do and this one. She says, fine. She said, you do your work, I'll do your yoga.
Yes. A very beautiful story like that. Dhuman Bhai, he would not, see, morning you see such nice, everybody in white and all this. And I was wondering, why do we have to do this? But, the best part was, I think it was Dhuman Bhai, that, when he has to go for darshan, suddenly he would, just probably just change the shirt and just go to her for the darshan and come back rushing and start doing the work again. Just in his usual attire. Because what does the divine want of us? Not that we look good, but that we be what they want us to be. And that is a challenging and difficult task. It's much more difficult to be inwardly tuned and, live that consciousness. So, and yet we are here for that. To meet its luminous self of truth and bliss. It peers at the real through the apparent form. It labors in a mortal mind and sense amid the figures of the ignorance. You see, this peers and labors like Huta. Are you divine? Peers and labors. Yeah. Divine should have 10, at least 4 hands. How can 2 hands be divine? That too, they look very much human. Divine should do something fantastic. But what is this divinity? That's what I was today also just contemplating as I was taking a walk with my friends. That look, what love in that body. How much love she had packed it with. That whole love is burst forth and reached in everybody's heart. It's so overwhelming that, it's so difficult. Not to understand, but just to receive. To receive itself is like it overflows abundantly. What love she had packed. And so many people with so much doubt, so much of problems, issues, people asking about them. And mother writes, they ask me questions like, I married somebody and that person has gone with somebody else. Such silly things. They are still living in that moral world of theirs. They were disturbing her with these things. And mother would just smile sweetly and, pour love. And this, she has said that. They ask me such silly questions. What shall I do? What shall I do? The only thing to do is to open to her and receive her love. What else is to be done? As simple as that. Just open and be receptive. All the rest will be taken care of. The Hercules method, this is called Hercules Yoga. Hercules, one of the tasks was to clean the Aegean stables. So, it was full of horses. I believe, God knows, 1,000 horses. So by the time he went from one horse to the 100th horse, the first horse had started dirtying it again. What does he do? How does he clean it? And this is a task given to him.
Wonderful.
So he thought about it. There must be some trick. So he discovered the trick that there was a mighty river running. He said, let me change the course of the river. And he changed the course of the river. So it kept getting washed. And much later I understood what mother has said. When we start the yoga, we want to pick up one defect, get rid of it. By the time, we come back, we discover we have committed that fault again. So we say, oh my God. Whereas the right way is to keep opening to her grace and love. So it washes off everything, and that's a wonderful. So she would say, don't clean the spots one by one. Change the very cloth.
She said it cannot be done.
Yes, you can't do it. Don't wash the stains one by one. You will end up tearing the cloth. Just change it. Change it. Change this whole thing into a being of her love. That's it. If you pick up, start doing it, and sometimes the ego can take a great pride. I'm working upon myself. That too she said. Oh, these mentalized people who talk about working on themselves. Oh, this was my ego. This was not my ego. This was. Of course, we all start like that. But at some point you discover how silly it can become. Because, it's like an Aegean stable. And there are thousands and thousands of horses and wild beasts. It labors in our mortal mind and sense amid the figures of the ignorance. In the symbol pictures drawn by word and thought, it seeks the truth to which all figures point. Look at it. All figures point towards that truth. I'm reminded of this story of Dattatreya, a great yogi in Maharashtra and all over India. He's regarded as an avatar of Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, all the three. A great yogi. Somebody asked Sri Aurobindo also about Dattatreya and his yoga. Because there are things in his yoga which come like a close parallel to Sri Aurobindo's. Well, very far from one perspective, but anyways, people like to see comparisons. So, Dattatreya, when he was asked about his guru, he said, I have 24 gurus. What guru? He says, I have learned from a bee, so she is my guru. I have learned from a river, so he is my guru. So like that. And at one place he says, even a harlot is my guru. I have learned something from her. See, guru is everywhere. Mother is everywhere. Everything points. It's a figure pointing towards truth.
Yes.
Parents, what are they? Just a shadow of that divine parentage, and we are seeking them. So when physical parents go away, we should rather remember that my real parents forever who have given birth to both body and soul, we should remember them. So everything, same with children, all relations will ultimately point toward the divine and can be fulfilled in the divine. Every atom points towards that. Symbol picture. It seeks the truth to which all figures point. It looks for the source of light. With vision's lamp, it works to find the doer of all works. The unfelt self within, who is the guide? The unknown self above, who is the goal? That's all we need to know. That there is a soul within and a grace above. Letter to Niruddha.
Yes.
All that we need to know is that there is a soul within and there is grace above. And of course, at another place he says that love and devotion, they rend the way
Yes,
in the mind. That's true, of course, Satyendra Thakur. Yeah. That's very similar.
I think
the divine, it's about the concealed divine within.
Yes.
And in the mind's quietude, the lid
thins
thins and
vanishes.
Yes. So as simple as that. We need to know this much to make the great discovery.
Yes.
All is not here a blinded nature's task, and we make even the divine Leela as if it's a blind task. Oh, mother went away, this happened, that. Just imagine for whom we are saying. What do we understand of any of her actions? Why she was born, why she took a human body, and the Leela of the last day, the last scene, and we make our judgments. So, a word, a wisdom watches us from on high, a witness sanctioning her will and works, an eye unseen in the unseeing vast. There is this eye. There is an influence from a light above. This eye unseen, of course, is the truth's own home. And it's described in the Vedas as the eye of Vishnu. Vishnu in the Puranas is a different deity, but in the Vedas is regarded as, Satyam Ritam Brahatam. So this is an eye, and it can actually appear in a vision also, an eye unseen. It's a glimpse, the door of the supramental, and it watches upon this whole world. There is an influence from a light above. And repeatedly even about the yoga, Sri Aurobindo says, all at one place. Usually he would say open to the mother. And at one place he says, all depends on whether you can open to the influence or not. Influence with a capital I. All depends on this. This whole yoga depends on this. It doesn't depend on intellectual brilliance and how many papers you can write on Sri Aurobindo, how many talks you can deliver, how many years you have spent in the ashram. Nothing. It depends on whether you can open to the influence or not. This one line, all depends. So there is an influence. Look at with a capital I. There is an influence from a light above. There are thoughts remote and sealed eternities. Eternities. eternity of love, eternity of light, eternity of truth unfolding itself. So sealed eternities, each is a peak. So there are several absolutes, several peaks, each is an absolute in its own right. A mystic motive drives the stars and suns. And if that be so, then why not earth, the chosen place? So we should always stay at peace, not be disturbed by the world events, because we can try to understand it, which is good. If there is an inner opening, it will come. But not be disturbed, not despair. That shows lack of trust in the divine. If divine is there, then despair is absurd. If divine is not there, then existence is absurd. Logic, very simple. QED. If there is no divine, existence is meaningless, then why question such things? And if there is divine, then worry and despair about anything is absurd. Because he is there. In this passage, from a deaf, unknowing force to struggling consciousness and transient breath, a mighty supernature waits on time. The world is other than we now think and see. Our lives a deeper mystery than we have dreamed. Not only we have thought or conceived, even then we have dreamed. We don't know. See, so many of us, I wonder. And every one of us, I am sure, feels Mother's love and grace. Try to think logically why. No logic to it. All of us would be from external understanding defective pieces. Why picked up? Only the grace knows. No other way you can understand. So there is a mystery, this world, because the divine sees the inmost soul, which we don't see. This question was asked to Nalnida, why special grace to Arjuna? Other Pandavas, they were very nice people. One was truthful to a default. Another is a tapasvi like Bhishma. Vidur is a Mahatma. Such great people. Karna, generosity. Arjuna is only good in arrow shooting. Otherwise, his nature has all kinds of flaws. And he loves Krishna. That's his, he trusts Krishna. Whatever you tell me, I'll do it. But still, if virtues are a, sign of closeness to God, then certainly Arjuna was not the most virtuous. So Sri Aurobindo says, and Nalnida also says, it's because there is this being inside which the Lord sees, we don't see. We don't understand. So this is the real truth, a being no bigger than the thumb of man. That he will describe. Across, the world is other than we now think and see. Our minds are starters in the race to God. And we think it's the end. Our souls, deputed selves of the Supreme. This is what the divine sees. What is this soul bound to manifest? And he makes all experiences come which will help us in that direction.
I'd like to read these two lines. Across the cosmic field, through narrow lanes, asking a scanty dole from fortune's hands, and garbed in beggar's robes, there walks the one.
I think we can even close here.
Yeah, I think so.
Very powerful lines. Garbed in beggar's robes, there walks the one. Practical implication, next time we see a beggar, or next time we see somebody whom we don't like, next time we see somebody weak and infirm, next time we see even a dog or a cat, we should know it is a garb of the one. This is the immediate practical.
Yes.
We'll read these lines again.